Where is he? He said he'd meet me out here. If he doesn't show up in the next 5 minutes, I'm leaving. Screw it, I'm going home.
Hey, did you know that Mary Shelley lost her virginity in a place like this?
Who the f*** starts a conversation like that?
I don't know, me I guess.
I really need to stop trying to make sense of anything you do. Why'd you call me out here anyway? Is this an algorithm thing?
Well, sorta. You see, it's high time that you finish what you started.
Okay, that's not eerie at all. What do you mean?
Well, 2 years ago you made a video on Bloodrayne, last year you made a video on Bloodrayne 2, so it's only natural that you complete the trilogy.
Yeah, sure. I'm game. I like Bloodrayne 2, so how bad can it be? Huh. I'm not gonna question that. Hey there, Pyromaniacs. Over the last couple of years, I've grown a bit of a fascination with the history of a long-dormant video game franchise known as Bloodrayne. What started out as a spin-off to a lesser-known survival horror game eventually grew into a modest little multimedia franchise complete with games, movies, and comic books before suddenly getting cut short. But what happened? Why did this promising franchise die out? Well, that's what I finally want to uncover in this third and final installment of my Bloodrayne retrospective. The first Bloodrayne was a fun, if a bit janky experience with a serviceable enough story, while Bloodrayne 2 ended up improving on the first game in almost every way. The gameplay was tweaked to be more of a traditional character action game, and the story was surprisingly compelling, for what it was. The whole game gave off the same dark and edgy feel of an early 90s comic book, evoking the likes of Spawn and Hellboy. The game also ended on a cliffhanger, with Kagan finally being defeated, but the world being plunged into an apocalypse as monsters are free to roam the earth, and the Brimstone Society declaring war on all supernatural beings, including our hero Rain. And yet, Majesco and Terminal Reality didn't start work on a sequel right away. Why? Well, simply put, the higher-ups at Majesco really liked to gamble. Bloodrayne 2 wasn't necessarily a massive financial success, and yet Majesco decided to move forward with attempting to jumpstart another franchise in Advent Rising. They put millions into marketing this game only for it to turn out as a total bomb. I should probably get around to making a video on that game at some point. But after Advent Rising's truly epic failure and other games' mediocre performances, the company ended up scaling back considerably. Most of Majesco's focus instead went to budget titles, foreign game distribution, and licensed games going forward. Because of this, it wasn't until 2011, 7 years after Bloodrayne 2 released, when we would finally get a new installment with the topic of this video, Bloodrayne Betrayal. Thanks to WayForward taking up the reins from Terminal Reality, gamers would finally get to see how Rain fares in a post-apocalyptic world where all her former allies are out to get her. After all these years, we finally got a thrilling conclusion to this trilogy. So Bloodrayne Betrayal opens with Rain working with the Brimstone Society to try and get revenge on her father Kagan and his legion of cultists, despite us already killing him in the last game. Yep. Bloodrayne Betrayal is a reboot. None of the previous games matter to this game's continuity. It's a fully self-contained story removed from the rest of the franchise. Instead of picking up from the genuinely compelling cliffhanger of the last game, WayForward saw it best to just go back to the status quo. Bloodrayne Betrayal follows Rain helping the Brimstone Society crash a ball held in Lord Kagan's underground castle. And then you go through the castle and defeat Kagan at the end. And that's the entire story. Oh, and at some point the Brimstone Society betrays Rain and tries to capture her. Hence the title, Bloodrayne Betrayal. Yeah, the story definitely is not the main focus of this game, which is fair. It wasn't exactly a focus of the first two either, but it's still a bit of a shame considering how much I found myself enjoying Bloodrayne 2's story. It was schlocky and silly, of course, but I would have really loved to see more of those characters in that world. The following installment not only having a thinner story, but also going as far as to reboot everything is just a little disappointing. I'm sure I'm the only person who cares about this though, so I really can't hold against WayForward for doing it this way. That being said, this game's story does introduce a new character into the Bloodrayne canon. Raven. No, that would actually be cool. Raven is a mysterious shapeshifter that helps Rain in different ways throughout the game, but he seems to be keeping something from her as he's the one that betrays her. I mean, come on, it's not exactly a spoiler if it's obvious. He's only introduced in this game, his entire personality is being mysterious, the game is literally called Betrayal. Gee, I wonder if this new character is gonna betray me or not. Still, like I said before, the story is clearly not the focus of this game. More focus was definitely put on the overall gameplay rather than the narrative. So, is the gameplay any good? I mean, it's certainly not bad. I guess? As you've probably noticed by now, while the first two games were 3D action games, Bloodrayne Betrayal is a 2D action game, which makes sense with it being made by WayForward, which mostly specializes in 2D games. When I first saw gameplay before actually playing it, I assumed it was a Metroidvania similar to WayForward's other series, Shantae. In fact, going in, I kinda assumed this game was basically gonna be a Shantae game, but with vampires instead of genies. That is not what I got. In reality, Bloodrayne Betrayal is a hard-as-nails 2D hack-and-slash game. In many ways, it actually translates Bloodrayne's combat really well into 2D. You still have melee and range attacks, you're still able to drain enemies' blood for health, but Rain also has new abilities that just sort of make sense for a 2D game of this nature. Rain now has a backflip that lets her jump higher, and she can now bounce on the heads of some enemies to reach ledges. The game really plays with the added verticality of the level structures. For instance, there are now walls that Rain can latch onto and triangle jump on Strider style. There are also hidden treasures around the levels as rewards for exploration and creative platforming. They don't really do anything except add to your score at the end of the level, but it does add a bit of an extra collectathon feel to the game. That being said, a ton of Rain's abilities are now completely missing. Blood Rage, Aura Vision, Dilated Perception, and even the Harpoon are all gone from this game. I guess continuity-wise, it makes sense that she wouldn't have the Harpoon, considering that was given to her by Mince, but whatever. This does mean that a lot of the combat just kind of devolves into you mashing the attack button and dodging out of the way of incoming attacks. At least in the second half of the game, you're given the ability to turn into a raven, which is introduced to you in a section that's basically a Flappy Bird knockoff. I wish I was kidding. It's seriously just Flappy Bird. Or I guess technically Lion Bird, since Flappy Bird wouldn't be out for a couple more years. But still, the one cool vampire ability you get in this game plays like Flappy Bird. Oh, and when I said this game was hard as nails, that was an understatement. This game is brutal. The game will fill the screen with enemies to the point that it's sometimes difficult to figure out what's even going on. Tons of characters will be attacking you at once pretty much at all times. It gets to a point that the later levels straight up feel like bullet hell stages at times, with an onslaught of projectiles that you're expected to dodge with perfect timing. Despite practically every enemy doubling as a health pack, you're going to be near death for the majority of the game, especially during boss fights. The difficulty doesn't even really come from the source of a fair challenge, but instead from the sheer amount of visual vomit on display that makes it hard to anticipate incoming attacks. Not to mention that whenever Rain gets hit, she immediately collapses to the floor, which leads to a lengthy recovery animation, which gives enemies ample time to hit you again and knock Rain back onto the floor. There were so many times in this game where I would die and know for a fact that it wasn't my fault, and was instead just bad luck due to an enemy being in the exact wrong place at the exact wrong time. And that's the real problem with this game's difficulty. It's not tough but fair like a Souls-like, it's just hard for the sake of being hard. Keep in mind, I'm playing the remaster, Bloodrayne Betrayal Fresh Bites, which added a new easy difficulty. This is the easy difficulty! The original was even harder! This isn't even getting into the platforming that this game introduces. There was some very light platforming in Bloodrayne 2, but there's definitely more of a focus on it here. It makes sense, of course. Platforming in a side-scroller almost comes with the territory. But here, it's kind of a nightmare. The platforming isn't anywhere near as brutal as the combat, but it can still get pretty frustrating. Rain is a very quick and slippery character in this game, which is great when you're bobbing and weaving out of your way of attacks, but it can make precision platforming a living hell. And projectiles that stop your jump's momentum and plunge you into a bottomless pit, and suddenly I'm having PTSD flashbacks to Mega Man 2. There's also just a very small pool of enemies that you'll be hacking your way through from beginning to end. You better get used to seeing these gunslinging vampires that can hit scan you from across the screen, because you'll be fighting hordes of them from the first level all the way to the very end. I don't know, I guess I just came to expect more from WayForward than this. Like, yeah, 2011 was a very different era for the company, but they still managed to put out some great games back then as well. Mighty Switch Force, Shantae, Godzilla Domination. I guess in a way, Bloodrayne Betrayal at the very least lived up to the name. Betrayal! Bloodrayne Betrayal did not sell well. And now I understand why. None of the Bloodrayne games are masterpieces, despite me using that word in my clickbait thumbnails, but I do like these games. All of them. Except this one. It sucks though, because I really wanted to like this game. I really wanted to give it an honest try, but every time I found something I enjoyed, the game would immediately kick my teeth in, almost punishing me for trying to have fun. The first two games can be pretty tough too, but nothing like what I had to deal with in this game. Apparently, there actually was a genuine Bloodrayne 3 in the works around the same time as Betrayal, titled Bloodrayne the Shroud. But due to the poor sales and critical reception of Betrayal, it was ultimately scrapped. There was at one point a rumor around 2014 of Arc System Works of Guilty Gear fame working on a new Bloodrayne game, which would have been awesome, but it turned out to just be a Japanese localization of Betrayal rebranded as Bloodrayne Crimson Slayer, which, on a side note, is a way cooler name. But with that, the story of Bloodrayne comes to a very unflattering close. Not with a bang, but with a silent whimper of a failing company that flew too close to the sun. If I can say anything positive about this game, I really like Rain's redesign. I don't have to explain, you get it.
Oh man, sorry I'm late, I was in a meeting. The Cabal was trying to figure out what the hype feature actually does.
Oh hey, where'd you run off to? I just got done talking about the last Bloodrayne game.
What do you mean, I just got here? Wait, you played Betrayal? Like, willingly?
Yeah, and it sucked, so thanks for that. Wait, did you just say you just got here?
Yeah, so?
And who gave me this game?
I don't know, someone that wanted you to suffer, I guess. Why'd you want to meet up in a graveyard anyway?
I didn't. You did, right?
So I'm gonna go.
Right behind you. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.